New Rams wide receiver Allen Robinson and why he chose Los Angeles and what it means for their title defense in 2020.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for making us a part of what you do right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you click that subscribe button. That's good news for you. You get the free podcast in your phone, wherever you're listening to your podcast every single day. Make sure you check out Locked On Rams on YouTube as well. You can follow me on Twitter under my name. My name is Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers on Twitter. I host the Rams pregame show, halftime show, and postgame show on their flagship station, ESPN 710. We got a lot to get to coming up on today's pod. I want to talk about something that Andrew Whitworth said about Aaron Donald. Very good news, Rams fans. That's coming up in just a little bit. And today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. And a couple of different things I want to get into on Allen Robinson. Coming up in just a bit, I want to talk about some of the quarterbacks that he has had in his career up until this point and how different it might look with Matthew Stafford as the guy that's delivering him the football moving forward at this point in his career. But let's get right into it. Why did Allen Robinson choose Los Angeles? Because after Davante Adams was traded, we saw some franchise tags get thrown around that Allen Robinson was probably the best free agent wide receiver on the market. It did not appear that the Rams were going to be particularly active at that position in free agency necessarily, considering that Robert Woods was going to come back, considering that they're aggressively trying to re-sign Odell Beckham Jr., that they have Cooper Kupp, that Van Jefferson has become a very regular part of their offense, and they picked their first-round draft pick. Let me say that again. Their first pick of the last draft in the second round. Their first pick in the second round was a wide receiver, Tutu Atwell, out of Louisville. So wide receiver seemed a little... I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. I would put myself in that category to be sure. So why did they do it? I think a lot of it is Robert Woods' health, his age, and necessarily not having enough footballs to go around. So they go get Allen Robinson. So as far as Allen Robinson is concerned, though, why did he decide that he wanted to come? And I think that the best part about it is he simply put that this is an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. Quote, this is from new Rams wide receiver Allen Robinson. I wanted to step into an environment where I can be the best I can be. They're coming off a Super Bowl, and I haven't won a Super Bowl. To be around a group of guys who have done that is not only going to make me better, and it's going to push me. Okay, so yes to all of that, right? Number one, it's really hard to calculate exactly what it meant for the Rams to win that Super Bowl as far as the ripple effects, right? The butterfly effect, the what happens after it happens. It's very hard to project that, well, if we win a Super Bowl, then this will happen. You know what it might mean for ticket sales. You know what it might mean for attendance. You know what it might mean for television ratings and things like that. But so what, quite honestly? What does it mean for the football aspect of it? Do you start to get more players? Do more people come and poach the guys that you have? That seems to be inevitable, right? That when you win a Super Bowl, it means you have very good players. That means that other teams need good players, and they're going to be coming for your guys. But what it also does is what Allen Robinson is talking about, that when you get guys at a certain point in their career, when they've made money, and maybe money isn't the single driver in your decision-making process, that there are things other than just who can pay me the most, who can pay me the most and give me a chance to participate, namely catch passes or carry balls or score touchdowns or whatever it might be, get tackles, sacks, whatever, interceptions. And then lastly, do have a chance to win. And I think that's where Allen Robinson is in his career, listening to that quote. Gives me a chance to go compete for a Super Bowl, something I haven't done yet. Think about where he's been. He's been on bad teams. He's been in Jacksonville. He's been in Chicago with the Bears. And now he's coming to the Rams. I mean, you saw what it meant for somebody like Odell to come over here after being in an organization that is just floundering. The Cleveland Browns, obviously, a team in New York that was struggling by the time that he got there. By the time Odell was a member of the New York Giants, they were in a pretty significant decline. He comes here, Boom, it happens right away. Think about some of the other players that have come over here from other places that had mixed reputations, right? And I'm not talking about like off the field stuff. I'm talking about playing reputations. Leonard Floyd was considered a guy, probably not as good as we thought he was going to be. Maybe isn't going to become the player that a lot of people thought coming out of the draft. He comes to LA with the Rams. Bam, Leonard Floyd's fantastic. I think he's a great example. We've seen a lot of guys like that. Now, Allen Robinson's a little different than that. Allen Robinson has thrived despite being on bad teams. Allen Robinson was very good in Jacksonville. We'll talk about that coming up in a bit. He was pretty good in Chicago. Put him in a competent offense on a team that has a chance to win. Of course, you're going to draw players like that. It's hard to kind of think of it like this because as football fans, you, me, and guys that watch this stuff for fun and maybe take it a little bit more seriously than the average guy, you think that everybody in the NFL is an expert at what they do. You think that every team has really smart people making decisions, that every team has coaches that know exactly how to use their guys, that know exactly how to maximize the abilities that they have on their roster. It's just simply not true. You have a lot of guys that are really bad at what they do. There's the Jacksonville Jaguars have not picked bad players every single time, every single year in their existence. Do you think it's probably that or the fact that the culture of the organization just sucks, that the culture of the organization can't get out of the way? And I'm not even picking on Jacksonville, but they're just a really good example. If you hire Urban Meyer before he even walks in the building, you've done a bad job. You've never been looking around. You know that Urban Meyer doesn't know that league. That he didn't know Aaron Donald is just simply hilarious. That's a report that came out. But the point being, the Rams function now. They didn't before. With Jeff Fisher, they really didn't function all that well. Prior to that, the Dick Vermeil, Mike Martz, greatest showing, those teams functioned. And then they went through a pretty low period where nothing was really functioning the way it was. They were still drafting pretty good players, but it wasn't functioning the way that it needed to. Sean McVay, Les Snead certainly changed that to a certain degree. And now it functions about as well as any team in the league. So you're getting players like Allen Robinson deciding to come here at certain points in their career because A, I'm going to get paid. B, I'm going to get to catch the ball. And C, I get a chance to go win and play in some very, very important games. So that's what he's talking about. There's a whole nother part of this too that he mentioned that I think is incredibly important. He talked about speaking to some of his former teammates, right? He talked to Leonard Floyd, who he was teammates with in Chicago, Dante Fowler, Jacques McClendon. These are some other guys that were teammates of his in other places that have gone through the Rams in the last couple of years. Because think about it. If you're hiring a guy or if you're going to a new company and you have some friends that have been through these places before, what are you going to do? You're going to ask around, right? Hey, what's it like? What's he like? Is it as good as it looks? How do they treat you? Does it really look is it as appealing as it actually looks? And when the reports are all coming back, dude, it's better than you think. You don't think Leonard Floyd has good things to say about the Rams? You don't think that Jalen Ramsey, one of his former teammates, is saying good things about the Rams? Jalen Ramsey was the best player at his position on a team that was going nowhere and continues to go nowhere. He comes to LA and they go to the Super Bowl. They go to the playoffs every year. He's one of the best positions at his players still. He gets to enjoy all those things. What do you think the report back to a guy like Allen Robinson is going to be? It's going to be fantastic. This is the word of mouth advertising, for lack of a better phrase, that you just can't really get other places. You can go win a bunch of games. That's great. But when I call a buddy, when I call a friend, a former coworker, a former teammate, or whatever, and say, hey, tell me what this guy's all about, they're going to tell me the truth. They're going to tell each other the truth. If Leonard Floyd is like, listen, I know we're winning a bunch of games, but this place sucks, he's probably not coming. If Jalen Ramsey says, look, I know Sean McVay is a good coach and we're winning, but I'm telling you, this is a weird place to be, guys wouldn't come. And they continue to come, which means nothing like that is really going on, which is very, very good news for Rams fans. And lastly, Allen Robinson said one of the reasons he wants to come back, he wants to go up against Jalen Ramsey in practice every day and give himself an opportunity to get better and better against the guy that's the best at his position, working against him in practice. Why not? Just one of many reasons that Allen Robinson is here in L.A. Unfortunately, the downside is Robert Woods. He's down the road in Tennessee. Okay, so how good can he be with the Rams this season? That's coming up next, but not before we talk about Bet Online. It is basketball season, right? Almost to the end of basketball season, the best part of college basketball season. The tournament is finally here. So you're looking for numbers, you're looking for odds, you're looking for player props. No better way to go than betonline.net because it's the #1 source for all of your sports betting needs and information. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your scores, podcasts, and news the entire tournament long and after the tournament. We know how it goes. You roll in to whatever it is you're into next. Maybe it's not basketball, but BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information needs, including live betting, and your favorite Vegas casino games. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet online, where the games start. And thanks for making Locked on Rams your first listen every day. Make sure you're following Locked on NFL as well. Locked on experts covering the biggest stories around the NFL every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It, too, is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Allen Robinson, the football player. We know why he's here. We know why he decided that Los Angeles is the place to go. It's a chance to win. It's a chance to compete against Jalen Ramsey every day in practice. He spoke to some former teammates. All good news. Let's cut to the brass tacks, right? He's coming because Matthew Stafford's really good. He's coming because the offense is the sort of offense that if you're a wide receiver, this is where you want to play. He's coming because he's had a career that has been filled with guys that are somewhere between terrible to barely mediocre that have been throwing him the ball his entire career up until last year, maybe with Fields, who is green and inexperienced, and Allen Robinson is neither of those things, so it's time to go get some things done. Here who has thrown Allen Robinson the most receptions in his career, the very best player that he has, very best quarterback that he's played with, or at least the person that's thrown him the most completions, Blake Bortles. Yeah, that Blake Bortles, that one, the one in Jacksonville, the one who was here with the Rams briefly. Allen Robinson has caught 196 passes from Blake Bortles. Yeah. Okay, so let's just extrapolate what Blake Bortles could get done with not a ton of other dynamic offensive players around him, with a quarterback who on his best day is average, to what Matthew Stafford might be able to do with him, with a guy like, oh, I don't know, just off the top of my head, Cooper Kupp on the other side of the field. You think that Allen Robinson may have some opportunities to have some big days along the way, that instead of Blake Bortles, and again, let me make this very clear. Blake Bortles is the best quarterback that he played with up until this point. You know who ranks in second? Mitch Trubisky. Anybody want to make a trade for Mitch Trubisky? Anybody looking for Mitch Trubisky to be the final piece of the puzzle to lead your team to the promised land? Look, maybe Mitch Trubisky has a little bit, and I stress a little bit, of Matthew Stafford in him, in the sense that he went to a bad Chicago team, was surrounded by incompetence, and then maybe when he goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers this year and he's around a functioning team, and the Steelers are certainly that, and Mike Tomlin is certainly a competent, capable head coach, maybe it'll be a little better. You want to bet on that? I wonder if Bet Online has odds on Mitch Trubisky going from a bum to a non-bum. I'll have to look that up, and we'll do it next time. The next best guy is a guy that's been a career-long backup. It's Nick Foles. Now, Nick Foles is a Super Bowl MVP, which is pretty impressive, but he's only caught 49 passes from Nick Foles. Okay, Nick Foles in Chicago, obviously, he's okay, but there's a reason that every team that has Nick Foles on it eventually decides to put Nick Foles back on the bench. Nick Foles or Matthew Stafford. Now we're getting into some real characters, right? Justin Fields is green and brand new, and a guy that's just in the league. He's a rookie quarterback, and we know anything about the NFL, it's that rookie quarterbacks do not fare well. And if you're a veteran wide receiver like Allen Robinson, it's probably a lot to deal with. That's probably yet another reason he's down the road and here in Los Angeles. These next couple of guys are Chase Daniel, who threw him 21 passes, Andy Dalton, who threw 12, and Chad Henne, who has thrown 6. So let's just go through that list of guys again very, very quickly. Here are the guys that have thrown Allen Robinson passes in his career up until this point. Blake Bortles, Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, Justin Fields, Chase Daniel, Andy Dalton, and Chad Henne. Okay? With the potential exception of Justin Fields, whose, book has yet to be written. He certainly has some ability. We'll see how it shakes out. The rest of those guys are somewhere between not very good at all, downright bad, and guys that when they're really feeling it, really slinging it at the very top of their game, they almost get to average. You don't think that Allen Robinson is going to put up bananas? Allen Robinson is a good wide receiver in this NFL with bad quarterbacks throwing him the ball, with teammates that don't draw nearly the type of attention that a guy like Cooper Kupp is going to draw. You don't think that he is absolutely salivating at the opportunity to play in that offense? I would imagine that he's going to be living in the facility, that he can't wait to figure out how that offense operates, how they're going to use him, how he and Matthew Stafford can get on the same page, because he's been waiting his entire life for an opportunity to get somebody like this. And now that he does, and he knows that, look, he signed a 3-year deal, Matthew Stafford signed a 4-year extension, they're going to get some times. They're going to get some reps. And we know how this goes, right? All the, guys, unfortunately, knocking on wood right now, guys get hurt, guys miss time, guys go down. you could turn around, you could snap your fingers, and he could be the number one guy. Or you could all of a sudden find yourself in a situation where somehow, some way, I don't think this is likely, but Cooper Kupp, maybe just they figure out a way to at least slow him down. The ball's coming your way even more. OBJ, if he decides to come back, and even if he doesn't, even if it's just Van Jefferson, the opportunities coming for a guy like Robinson from a guy like Stafford are really challenging to calculate, but incredibly exciting simultaneously, because really good quarterbacks and really good wide receivers almost always work together. Really good quarterbacks can almost make mediocre wide receivers look pretty good. Now, a really good receiver can barely cover for a bad quarterback, and I think that's what Allen Robinson's been dealing with the best part of his career. You know, when he was in Jacksonville, Blake Bortles he had moments where he was just about to the point where you say, you know what, I think maybe he might not be terrible. No one's ever saying that about Matthew Stafford. It's, yeah, you know, he's a lot better than I ever thought. We knew he was pretty good, but I didn't know he could do that. I didn't know if he got him surrounded by competent players, competent coaches, competent support staff, that it would look quite like that. Well, quite like that is a Super Bowl championship, and that's a big reason that Allen Robinson is here. So this is another thing that's just going to keep this thing rolling, keep this thing moving towards another deep run into the playoffs. Now, once you get into the playoffs, who knows what's going to happen, right? Anything could happen. The Rams could have lost three of the four games they played. Three of those could have gone really either way. The game against Tampa could have gone either way. The game against San Francisco could have gone either way. The Super Bowl, of course, could have gone either way. But when you're really good, those could have gone either way. They maybe go your way just a little bit more than it probably should. And that, I think, Allen Robinson kind of tips that thing even further in the right direction for the Rams. Okay, so no official word from Aaron Donald on whether or not he's going to decide to come back, but some very good news from Andrew Whitworth on his friend Aaron Donald and what he means for the team moving forward. That's coming up. But first, Rock Auto. You've seen them all over TV, right? Save time and money when using Rock Auto. What is the most valuable things you have? Obviously, your money and your time. You don't want to go to one of the chain stores and go looking for something that they don't have, and the guy's looking for it, and is it this model? Is it that make? Is it this? Is it that? And you just don't, they're not going to have all the things you need. That's why you go to Rock Auto. Explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. They have everything that you could need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, new carpet for your car as well. Go see what your car needs, then go on rockauto.com, and I promise you're going to find everything that you need. Go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in there "How did you hear about us" box, so they know that we sent you. That's good news for you. It's good news for us. It's good news for everybody. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Okay, so Andrew Whitworth has decided to call it a career. We've talked a lot about that on Locked On Rams, and thanks again for making us your first listen every single day. Click that subscribe button. You know how to do that as well. So we've talked a lot about Whitworth, but one of the things that I think is going to be most missed with him is his leadership. And the guy that has to step into that leadership void, or at least continue to grow as a leader on this team, is Aaron Donald. Now, they have a very close relationship, and Andrew Whitworth was asked some questions by TMZ Sports, and he was asked, do you think he's coming back? He said, no doubt. I talked to AD a lot, but there's no doubt about him, the way his work ethic is and the way he does things. He'll be back on that field dominating again. That's what I know. He knows how to do well, and I'm sure he's going to be doing it again in 2022. Excellent. Really no other thing to say to that other than that is excellent news, because Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the league. He's the best defensive player on the Rams. He is arguably one of the best defensive players ever. And Andrew Whitworth, put it to you this way, I don't think Andrew Whitworth is putting it quite like that if he doesn't know damn near certain that Aaron Donald's coming back. Now, again, this has always been kind of a weird one, because Aaron Donald has never said that he's on the fence. He's never said that he's not coming back. All of the hints that he's dropped, run it back, taking his shirt off at the parade, all of those things are pretty good indicators that he's going to come back and play again. There's rumored that a new deal is in the works, which, you know, if you had $100 million or whatever the final number is going to be waiting for you, I doubt that you'd be thinking about walking away to retirement. But the article in Sports Illustrated a couple of weeks ago, the reports right before the Super Bowl, that if they did, in fact, win that game, he may think about deciding to go do something else with the next part of his life. You never really quite know until you say, yes, I'm 100% going to be back. You've got your foot on the brake a little bit. Now, I've always expected him to come back, but I feel even better about it right now, knowing that Andrew Whitworth is saying, yeah, he's going to come back and dominate again. And that's the good thing about Donald, because if Donald were a different type of guy, if Donald, let's use this as an example. Do you remember the entire Brett Favre fiasco in Green Bay many, many, many years ago, where I don't know if I'm coming, I don't know if I'm going, I might retire, I might not retire, I haven't decided yet, and the Packers were constantly waiting for him to make a decision. Aaron Rodgers just kind of sitting around like, I don't know. And then he finally decides he's going to go, and then he comes back, and then they have to trade him. And really the rest of Brett Favre's career was kind of bizarre like that. And I think the biggest part about it is Brett Favre wasn't that guy, that great football player to be sure, but not that guy that, look, once I've decided I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this 1,000%. Aaron Donald doesn't do things halfway. If you've seen him talk, if you've seen him prepare, shoot, if you've ever looked at his body, if you've ever seen him on a football field, you can't do that by being a part-time football player. You can't do that by just hanging around and deciding at the last minute whether you're not going to do it. The man's 300 pounds and has a six-pack. You think that happens by, yeah, you know what, I think I'll play some football this year. Not a chance. He knows that this is what he does. He wants to not be good at it. He wants to be the very best who have ever done it, and that's a totally different thing. That is a totally different thing for him as opposed to a lot of guys. So when he decides that he's coming back, you know that you're getting all of it. You're not getting a portion of it. You're not getting a guy that's got, well, I'd like to be over here. I got to miss some time here. I'm going to do this halfway. I'm still pretty good at this. I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to do quite as much film study. You're not getting that guy. This is the guy that is as plugged in as anybody you're ever going to find in this entire league, and he's going to work like it. That if you're a coach, if you're Sean McVay, if you're the Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator, you don't need to worry about him. He's the one that's going to make sure that you're on top of your stuff. He's the one that's going to make sure that everything that he needs from the team is ready to go, not the other way around. But hearing Witt say that, hearing Andrew Whitworth say, listen, I think he's going to come back. There's no doubt about it, and he's going to dominate again. That feels very, very good for me, for Rams fans, and everybody else. Because, look, this is the – Aaron Donald and Matthew Stafford are the window. Right? Let me put this a different way. When Les Snead talks about knowing where you are in your window, he's talking about having an opportunity to win the whole thing. If Matthew Stafford continues to play at this level, the window is open. If Aaron Donald continues to play at this level or near it, the window is wide open, right? As good as Cooper Kupp is, and he's terrific. He's the best wide receiver in football. You could continue to keep the window open even if he starts to decline a little bit. You can find another wide receiver who can do some things along the way. As good as Jalen Ramsey is, and he's terrific, if he started to decline a little bit, you can cover some things. You can scheme some things to try to cover some of the things that maybe he's slipping on a little bit as he gets a little older, as maybe he loses that quarter of a step along the way or whatever it might be. With Aaron Donald, you can't cover that up. He's one of one. The energy he brings, the focus he brings, the intensity that he brings to everything he does every day. You can't say, well, we can get a guy a little cheaper. We can spend a little money over here. You're not replicating a guy that's getting doubled on nearly every single play. That's the red dot guy coming out of every single huddle in every offensive meeting room of every team that they're playing against. You do not just go get another Hall of Famer. And in the tiers of Hall of Fame, he's not even your every run-of-the-mill, everyday Hall of Famer. He's better than that. It's Reggie White. It's Lawrence Taylor. He's one of those guys. You don't just find another one. You need to maximize it while he's here, and that's what the Rams are doing, and that's what he's going to do because, one, as good as it was, as good of a time as he was having on the back of that bus and at the Coliseum after the parade, I think he would very, very much like to do it all over again, and he knows that his best chance to do it is here, and he knows that his best chance to do it is next season, the season after that, because the window, it doesn't get wider, it gets narrow. You can keep it open for a period of time, but it very rarely gets more wide. It only gets more narrow, and I think he knows that better than anybody else. Thanks again for making Locked on Rams your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked on NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bringing the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It, too, is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked on Rams' house.